YouTube, what is going down? It's your boy Mac. Obviously, there's no riding going on today. I live in the Northeast and it is brick outside. Very, very cold. But I did want to bring you guys a video comparing the Gen 6 to the Gen 5, being as though I've owned both bikes. And I just wanted to give you guys some information on what I've gathered over the years from owning those two bikes, 2 different years apart. Actually 1 year apart. But I did want to give you some data and make your own predictions on what you think about the Gen 5 versus the Gen 6 and if it is actually worth it to upgrade to the Gen 6. Let's go. So I'm going to be breaking this video down into 3 parts. We're going to be talking about style, we're going to be talking about performance, and we're going to be talking about power. Now the first one, style, which is a little bit subjective, but in my opinion, the Zx10r, the 2016-2020, was probably the best looking Zx10r at the time. When it first came out. The Gen 5 was absolutely awesome, man. I liked the Gen 4. I love the front of the Gen 4, but I could not stand the rear of the Gen 4. The tail was absolutely horrible, ugly to me. But when the Gen 5 came out, I was like, oof, now that's a good looking bike right there. So the Gen 5, I know a lot of people always liked the Gen 5. A lot of people like the Gen 5 way better than the Gen 6 even today, which is, you know, perfectly fine. Everybody has their own opinions about it. And I could kind of understand where they're coming from. A lot of people didn't like the Gen 6 until they actually saw it in person. That was definitely the issue that I had. People were just like, oh my God, the front of that bike looks like a koala bear. This, that, and the third. The memes were actually pretty freaking funny when I saw them. But when people actually saw the bike up close and in person, it was really freaking nice, man. When I first saw it it's actually funny, I'm actually got the episode playing when I first went to go with Eve to go pick up that bike. When I first saw it in person, I was like, oh, this thing looks a lot better in person than it did on the photos. The photos just really didn't do it justice as it should. But when the Gen 6 came out, you know, people were, you know, weren't feeling the look of it, but the technology that came in there was undeniable. Like having cruise control, having built-in heated grips, having a LED display or LCD display. I think it's LCD display. The color display was absolutely nice. It wasn't as nice as like the BMWs or anything like that. Those look like freaking IMAX movies screens for those bikes, but for the Kawasaki to now have a fully digital color display was pretty big. And also too, you also have the option of pairing your phone to it as well too, to get diagnostics, to check on whatever you really wanted to check on. I made a video for that. Be sure to go check out all the features and functions of the Gen 6. I kind of broke it down as to all the features that came with that bike, which is pretty awesome. But that was pretty nice, pretty big step up from Kawasaki to incorporate all those things into that bike. And that was one of the deciding factors as to why I actually upgraded and went to the Gen 6. Not the same for everybody, which I totally understand, which is nice. But I always wanted a bike that actually had a screen on it. But an easy fix for the Gen 5 is the aim dash. I've seen that on several Gen 5s and it looks absolutely amazing. And it's probably even more customizable than the Gen 6 screen that comes onto the bike, because I know people that have changed the initial picture that displays on those aim dashes, just like EJR and another guy, I forgot his name, but they had that displayed on their Blue Bomber. He actually has that displayed on his bike as well too, and it's pretty nice, man. You can do a lot of customizations on this. So I mean, it is subjective to whomever, you know, looks at the bike and deems what they think it should be. But you know, it's a pretty nice display. That's one of the reasons why I actually went with it. And not only just that, but like the cruise control is an option that I actually use when I go on long trips, because I like to take long trips on my bike to, you know, Philly or to Jersey or, you know, wherever. The cruise control option is definitely needed, and it's definitely an upgrade that I liked having on that. All right, guys, second part is performance on these bikes. Now, I've done smackdowns with both of these bikes. For the old subscribers, you guys have seen smackdowns with the Gen 5 that I've had. For the new subscribers, they're seeing the new smackdowns that I've had with the Gen 6. So in terms of performance, and I've also taken both bikes on the track as well too. I've had way more seat time on the Gen 5 than I did with the Gen 6. This past year, kind of slacked on track with the Gen 6, but next year it would definitely be increased for sure, man. But on the track, I absolutely have to say that the Gen 6 feels better than me. Now, I am no MotoGP rider in the slightest bit. I'm barely like an advanced rider at one track at NJMP, if that. But I feel like the Gen 6 was a little bit more nimble in the corners than the Gen 5. I felt like the Gen 5 was a little bit more bulkier, going around corners, entering and exiting corners. And I feel like that's where the Gen 6 actually had a little bit of an advantage. Maybe because I highly doubt it, but you know, the Gen 6 did come with incorporated wings in the tail and in the front of the bike, so maybe that helped with some type of downforce. I'm not sure exactly what it is. I don't want to sit there and try to pretend like, you know, I know that that's exactly what it is, but in feeling both of the bikes, the Gen 6 definitely felt better to me on the track than the Gen 5. Now, in terms of smackdowns, my Gen 6 is kind of unfair because my Gen 6 actually has straps on it. So when I do smackdowns with the Gen 6, I'm fighting way less wheelies than I am with the Gen 6 that I did with the Gen 5. The Gen 5, even with traction control at level 2, it was still popping wheelies like no other. But yeah, that I feel like the Gen 6 has it on both smackdowns and track performances. For sure. And also too, for the 2021 model year, Kawasaki decided to go with a 41 sprocket in the rear as opposed to the 2016-2020 that had a 39. So if anybody has both of those bikes and they're riding back to back, the Gen 6 will actually feel faster low end. Doesn't necessarily mean it makes more torque from the factory, but it'll feel faster because it has a bigger sprocket on the rear sides, and I definitely found that out, and then feeling that through the smackdowns. So that is definitely something that Kawasaki did as a nice change for the 2021 Zx10r. I also feel like the Gen 6 is a little bit lighter as well too, overall, not just on track, but just sitting on the bike, you know, holding it. I feel like the Gen 6 is a little bit lighter than the Gen 5. The Gen 6 definitely has a slimmer face than the Gen 5. The Gen 5 kind of had like a wider, like a shovel head almost. But the Gen 6 had a little bit like of a slimmer front. So maybe there was, you know, some weight savings that Kawasaki did with that bike from there. But I definitely appreciate it, and I definitely feel the difference from the Gen 5 to the Gen 6. So great job, Kawasaki. All right, guys, and the last segment is power. So this is a very interesting one here. Now, before I even go into details on the dyno sheets and the horsepower figures and things like that, just understand that I'm comparing a Gen 5 that had a Woolich flash to a Gen 6 that has a Brenn tune flash. But both of these bikes were on the same dyno from the same tuner. Anthony from Boss Racing did both of this. So he had the data that I had from last year on June 2nd, 2020 at 5:55 p.m. And he also had recently last month when I took my Gen 6 to get the power command after the Brenn tune flash on Thursday, November 18th, 2021 at 2:04 p.m. So very interesting here. Very interesting figures here. So for the Gen 5, the Gen 5 actually made more horsepower at the end of the mid-range than the Gen 6 did. But the Gen 6 squeezed past it at the very end with 188 horsepower, and the Gen 6 at 186.95 horsepower, almost 187. So all of the mods that I had in the Gen 5 was a sprint air filter. I had the air flap delete. I had the 3/4 titanium M4 exhaust. and I also had block off plates as well too. That's it. That's the only thing I had in the Gen 5. I had a Chain and Sprocket Kit as well too. And that bike pulled 187 horsepower on Anthony's dyno. And that was in the summertime too. On the Gen 6 that I just recently had dyno tuned from Anthony at Buzz Racing, I had a full Akrapovic exhaust system. I had block off plates. I had a sprint air filter, 520 chain and sprocket kit. So really the only difference between the two was a full system. And the full system was also the titanium. It was not the, I'm sorry, the full system was the stainless steel, not the titanium. And that bike pulled 188 horsepower at the very top. But you guys can see the clear differences at the low end. The Gen 6 made at least 8 to 10 more horsepower on the low end, lower portion of the mid-range. And then from 8 to, or I want to say from 8.5 RPMs to about 12 RPMs, the Gen 5 was making more horsepower on the stock header, which is also titanium as well too. So you got to give Kawasaki some props for still putting out some pretty good power on the stock system. So if you guys are in the, or you guys are like trying to save on a budget and not trying to, you know, go all out on the full system, you're still going to be making some pretty good power for not having a full system on the Gen 5. Now, a true comparison would be comparing both bikes with Woolich flashes on both, and then getting a true reading as to, you know, what bike is pulling what. And if once Woolich does release the flash for the Gen 6, I would definitely be comparing that and seeing exactly, you know, which flash is actually performing better than what. So just a quick little video, guys, that I want to share with you guys and give you some interesting data on this. My personal opinion about upgrading from the Gen 5 to the Gen 6, I would say if you're coming from an older bike like a 2010 or 2009 Zx10r, you're ready to get a new bike, then Gen 6 probably would be like a nice option for you because you're getting some really good technology. You're still getting a very, very fast bike. But if you already have like a Gen 5 and you're deciding, or you're on the fence about upgrading to a Gen 6, maybe you don't have to rush into it. The Gen 5 is still very fast out there. Flashes are readily available for it. Parts are readily available for it. Not even performance parts, carbon fiber parts, like all over the bike. You can make a complete custom Gen 5 if you wanted to. Not all those parts are available for the Gen 6 as of yet, so we're still waiting for more parts for the Gen 6. But yeah, if you have a Gen 5, there's still some room for you to make it a really, really fast bike and have it be just as competitive as the new bikes out there. It may take you a little bit of bucks to do that, but it is possible, and you can save yourself some dollars in the meantime. So yeah, that's just my personal opinion on it, guys. Take this information and do with it what you will. Let me know what you think about in the comments, and you know, let's just have another discussion about this. I'm interested to hear what you guys think about upgrading from the Gen 5 to the Gen 6, if you guys think it's personally worth it. So yeah, guys, I will see you guys in the next episode. We have a huge bike meet coming up very, very soon that I'm actually getting ready for. And I also have a famous YouTuber coming into town that I'm going to be going with him to pick up one of his bikes in Long Island. So I'll see you guys in the next episode, people. Ride safe and peace out, man.